So one of the things that I really advocate for is something called the fair tax. And what the fair tax is what Republicans and Democrats kind of push. Well, Democrats push, tax on the wealthy. Republicans want
Right.
more of a free market trade. What I would like to see is something called a fair tax. And this is actually the most equality based tax system that I've ever seen. And basically, it's a consumption tax. So it doesn't tax basic needs and services like healthcare, childcare costs, or food. None of that's taxed. However, the consumption tax comes where if you want to buy a nicer car, you're going to pay a heavier tax with that. Or if you want to buy jewelry, then there's going to be a heavier tax with that. However, what it does do is it eliminates income tax and property taxes. So, and then hopefully as well state taxes. So eliminates all that. And then what it does is it marks up some of those expensive goods and services. So the people who can afford that stuff, they're going to be paying a tax on it. So if you want a nicer house, a nicer car, all the fancy things that goes with it, then you're going to be paying that tax on it. For everyday people who want to buy a car too, yeah, you're going to pay a modest tax, but it's nowhere going to be as bad as what you were paying in property taxes or what was being taken out for your income tax. And I've looked at this and I've looked at all the numbers and it looks like a good system. The where it runs into issues, and I even spoke to the co-authors of the fair tax, and they actually presented it to some of the members in Congress here in Georgia, the Democrat Party, and they, it was like they said it was like a 3 hour spiel. They had sat with them, they asked questions and all this stuff, and then after everybody left the room, and it was just congressmen and them, the congressman said, "I would love to do something like this, but the Democrats would kick me out of office," meaning their party would kick me out because our lobbyists would not support this. And and I think that's what's a shame is that it just
Right.
kind of shows they're more beholden to the lobbyists and getting elected rather than what's good for the people. You're going to be paying taxes on stuff you buy, like clothes and stuff like that.
Right.
However, the more expensive clothes you buy, is like if you buy Armani or Versace clothes, yeah, you're going to be paying higher taxes. But if you
Right.
just buy, regular clothes, like if you shop at, Walmart or Target or something like that, your taxes on that is going to be a lot less. So it's more of a equitable based taxing system. So people who can afford it, yeah, they're already going to start paying those taxes. And the people who are just, you know, getting by paycheck to paycheck, they're still going to pay taxes, but it's not as much. And fairtax.org, that's the website that, they have videos and everything else, like 2-minute videos that kind of really roughly explain everything. I would think giving them tax incentives and special programs to especially first-time entrepreneurs who want to get started. Low interest rate loans, and then loan forgiveness as long as the business is made, as long as they met certain criteria. So if they're trying to start a business and they look at the business plan and everything looks solid, and then they get it off, and then some businesses just aren't going to succeed. So there should be a certain percentage of loan forgiveness if they made their all and they look at their financials and that person was really just trying to make an honest try out of it. I think they should be rewarded with at least trying to make an effort in order to start a business. Where we see people get afraid is because they're afraid to take that risk. They're afraid to take that loan out because, not everybody has the money to start a business, so they have to get a loan. And then once they get that loan, then they're responsible for that loan. So if that business
Right.
fails, they're still responsible for all that money. So they could lose their house, their car, they could lose everything if their business fails. So kind of looking at their hours of operation, how many people they employed, how much of money they took for themselves, because, business owners can pay themselves. So making
Mm.
sure that they weren't paying themselves over what their expenditures were for the month, meaning they were being a little bit fiscally responsible. Also, they could offer classes for fiscal responsibility. They could, through the bank, they could have a monitoring program where, like, if they have honest questions, like I'm not meeting my ROI revenue points. Is there something that can help me out? So that way they can get some education as far as what it takes to make sure that they're running the business fiscally responsible.